Getting on is obviously the first step to riding. But for many new riders, the process of mounting can be a place where accidents can happen. If we don't distribute our weight well when we get on, if we put our hands in the wrong places in the saddle, we can cause the saddle to slip. If you get on and right away you're, for example, thinking about your stirrups and you don't have good balance, you're in a vulnerable place if the horse starts to move. So today I want to show you just some super simple tips for how to mount correctly. And I'm also going to demonstrate a few mistakes that people make, and you can see if you might be making these as well. I'm Callie. This is one of our school horses, Catfish, and you're watching this video as part of our weekly show here at CRK Training. So the first step that I'm going to do here with Catfish, I'm just going to move my block so that I've got the block positioned in a nice place in order to be able to step up. The next thing I'm going to do as I step up on the block is I'm just going to organize my reins. So I'm going to have my reins short enough that if I needed to ask him to stand still, if he started walking forward, I could easily just pick up the reins and have a little bit of bit contact. Where I'm going to put my hands is really important. So I'm going to have one hand that's here resting on the neck, or if I need to grab a little bit of mane to help steady myself, I can grab a little mane here. With the other hand, I'm actually going to take it to the other side of the saddle. This is really important because now as I start to step on, my weight is going to be distributing evenly across both sides. So as soon as I start to mount, I want to, as quickly as possible, have my center of gravity over the center of the horse. So with my left foot, I'm going to put it in the stirrup. Notice how my knee's slightly facing forward. Now I'm going to take my center up, and now I'm balanced over the horse. So even if he would take a few steps off, I could easily stay in balance here. Now I'm going to swing this leg over the back of the saddle and then settle down into the saddle. Notice that when I first sit in the saddle, I take a moment just to sit. I notice my horse, I have my balance, and then I'm going to go to pick up my other stirrup. Many riders make the mistake of getting on and immediately putting all their focus over here trying to get that stirrup. Meanwhile, the horse may be walking off, and if they're here and they're off balance, they're in a vulnerable spot if the horse was to do any sudden movements. So now I want to show you this from the other side. So I'm stepping up here at the block. The first step is he's standing balanced and square. This means that when I start putting my weight on his back, he's balanced. If your horse is standing with like one leg really far back and you go to get on, he's going to have to take a step in order to balance himself with your weight, and that can trigger the horse to right away start walking off from the block. So he's balanced, standing well. I have my reins organized, my left hand here on the neck, holding just a little bit of mane, my right hand coming here to the other side of the saddle. And this is the same if you're riding in a Western saddle. I'm demonstrating on an English saddle right now, but with a Western saddle, you just take your hand to the swell. It's not a good idea to use the horn to mount because using the horn is going to tend to pull and twist the front of the saddle. So this hand's going on the other side, my foot goes in the stirrup, I find my balance here, swing my leg over, take a moment to find my balance in my seat, check in with my horse, and then I pick up my opposite stirrup. Let me step off again, and I'm going to go through a few mistakes that people commonly make. So some of the mistakes that riders make when getting on is one, either just being disorganized from the start, where maybe the horse is standing in like I mentioned earlier, with one leg really far back, so they have to start walking just to catch their balance. Maybe the reins are really lopsided and the rider gets on without even holding the reins. Or one of the biggest mistakes as far as with the saddle is holding the saddle in order to get on. So when I hold the saddle here and I start to put my weight in, notice how now I'm pulling the saddle towards me. This can easily cause the saddle to slip, and then it can cause a fall from the rider, or it can just mean that now you get on, your saddle's really crooked. If your horse starts to move, then you're in a bad spot. One of the other mistakes is holding the front and holding the back of the saddle. Because again here, now as I go on, if I pull on the back, I'm actually pulling across my horse's back. When we mount, where we're using the neck and the side, I'm stabilizing the saddle, so when I get on, I have very little twisting motion across the horse's back. You can see that in this demonstration for mounting, I've been using a mounting block. Whenever you have a mounting block available to use, it's a good idea to use it. It saves the extra strain on your horse's back from pulling yourself up from the ground. Some people are super athletic, or they've got the right, long legs and shorter horse that they can easily step on from the ground. But for many of us, it's much better to get on from the block where you're in a safer position to be able to get yourself balanced. And again, it saves the strain on the horse's back. I hope you enjoyed this video with some tips on how to mount more safely, with more balance, and in a way that's better for your horse too. When we can mount in a way that allows our horse to stay calm and balanced, isn't pulling the saddle around on their back and making them uncomfortable, and we feel proficient in getting on, it can just help the whole ride start off so much better. If you can mount, you can sit there for a moment, collect yourself, your horse is comfortable standing, rather than if you go to get on and you're kind of disorganized and your saddle slips and your horse walks off. Trying to start the ride from there is in a very different place than being able to hop on, rest for a moment, and then go off and have a great ride. If you have any other tips that you would like to add to this, put them in the comments below. Also, if you want to learn more about the basics of riding, of training horses, and also caring for horses, as well as how to start to advance out of those basics and that great foundation, check out my balanced riding course. There's a link down below that you can sign up for some free training the next time the program is available.